This will be a demonstration of OpenShift Virtualization on IBM LinuxONE. OpenShift Virtualization enables you to run not only containers on your OpenShift container platform, but also now virtual machines. And you can do so without requiring a hypervisor layer such as IBM's EVM or RHEL KVM. This is the standard OpenShift console overview page that you might already be familiar with if you've used OpenShift in the past. And the only thing about this OpenShift cluster that you need to know is that it is running on IBM LinuxONE hardware, which is the S390X architecture, which you have to dig a couple layers down into seeing that this is the S390X architecture right here. But more importantly, you need to know that this is running on LPARs. So this is running on our equivalent of bare metal, which is running straight on the LPAR without a hypervisor option like ZVM or KVM. So we have the core OS operating system for each one of the control plane and compute nodes running straight on an LPAR. And you have to have that so that you don't have nested virtualization or a second layer hypervisor for performance reasons. So you want to run a LPAR mode OpenShift cluster. And once you have that, all you have to do is deploy the OpenShift virtualization operator. Doing so will give you this new virtualization perspective in the OpenShift console, as well as the virtualization item in your OpenShift menu bar. If I look at the overview page and switch over to all projects, you'll see I have one virtual machine running. You get some basic information about the CPU, memory, storage, and any alerts. And if I want to deploy a new virtual machine, if I hop back to my demo project, all I have to do is go into the catalog here. You get different bootable volumes or a template catalog view. And all these different templates, CentOS, Fedora, RHEL 8, RHEL 9, these come out of the box with OpenShift virtualization once you deploy that operator. So I didn't import any of these. I didn't point this over to a repo somewhere else. These just come out of the box. You can customize these templates and create your own template, like I've done here with RHEL 9. And in this instance, I have some automation built into this where it'll automatically install MongoDB on the virtual machine once this comes up. But you can also change the template, such as CPU and memory, for instance. You can also import separate templates if you want to deploy SLAS or Ubuntu or something like that. You can import other templates as well. So I'll just deploy the standard RHEL 9 virtual machine, and doing so is just like anything else in the OpenShift cluster, very similar to using the OpenShift operator hub. You get some different parameters with some preset defaults. If you want to change the CPU or memory, increase those, for example, you can do so. And I'm going to give it an SSH key down here. So this SSH key is what I'll use to SSH into the VM once it's up and running. And the key is stored as a secret in my OpenShift project that I'm currently deploying into. You can change your virtual machine name. This will also affect the host name for the eventual VM. And there's a bunch of other customization options as well, right? This is very customizable. If I want to tell it to deploy the virtual machine onto a specific node, I have node selectors. If I want to give it environment variables, I can supply them via config maps or secrets or service accounts. If I want to give it a secondary network interface, which is recommended if you're going to be doing live migrations, I could do so on this page. If I had a secondary NIC on my LinuxONE LPAR, which I don't, so I don't have another option that it appears here. And if I want to give it a secondary disk, for example, in my MongoDB template, I have a disk that is just for MongoDB data to reside on, so you can do that kind of thing here. And then under scripts, you can add some cloud init scripting if you want some automation to run whenever you deploy this virtual machine template. You can supply that here. I'll leave all the default options though. I'm not going to change it at all. And I'll just hit virtual machine or create virtual machine. And this is pretty fast. Blink and you missed it. This VM is now up and running. You can see the VNC console is supplied right here. Or if I look onto the console tab, you'll see my login information. So the virtual machine is up and it's ready for us to log into it, which I could do so through this username and password supplied right here, but I'll come back and I'll SSH into that later. So we'll come back to this. On the virtual machine page, I get all of the overview information again that I specified in the parameters earlier. I also get the OpenShift information, such as the namespace that the VM is running in, the node that the VM is running on, in this case, compute 1. And it is running in a pod, even though it is a virtual machine. It's still running in a pod. This is still OpenShift. Snapshots we'll come back to. You can see my network, the IP address for the virtual machine is on the standard OpenShift SDN, the 10. Network. If you had a secondary NIC, you could specify a static IP address, but I don't have that set up. And you get my storage, also my file systems, and all this other information that you can peruse through. Now, it's important to know that even though this is a virtual machine, it's all still YAML. Right, so I'm going to have another video in the future where I deploy all this in an automated way through YAML, but this is the manual installation process that you might do the first time, or first handful of times before you come up with an automation process to help you out with this. Let's now walk through some of the functionality. So if I'm putting on the hat of a VMware admin or maybe a ZVM admin, and some of the common tasks I'll have to do are stop and start the virtual machine, clone the virtual machine, take snapshots, migrate the virtual machine to different LPARs. And you can do all that straight within the OpenShift web console. For example, if I want to migrate this virtual machine, let's see, right now it's running on compute node number 1. Let's migrate that. Maybe I want to do some maintenance to my LPAR. Maybe I need, or there's a disruptive action or a disruptive event, and I need to automatically have this live migrate to a different node. You'll see that this is now on compute 2, which is a completely separate LPAR. And I just did that manually, but you could also have this automatically take place whenever there is an outage. If I want to take a snapshot, I just click the button and I hit save. And now a snapshot will be taken of the virtual machine as it is in this moment. If I have any issues, again, with this virtual machine down the road, or I want to revert back to this snapshot, for whatever reason, you can do so. That's just as easy as hitting restore virtual machine from this snapshot for this current instance, but you do have to stop the virtual machine before you do so. So I'm not going to do that right now. I could create a new virtual machine from that snapshot if I wanted to have a second replica of it. And that would be basically exactly how cloning a virtual machine works in OpenShift Virt as well. If I want to hit clone, I get a new randomly generated name. I would say clone. And you'll see down here, there's actually a new snapshot. So it's taking a snapshot of it. It can start it automatically. I didn't select that option, but it would automatically start that. And then it goes back in and it deletes that snapshot. So you don't have any extra snapshots from when you do clones. But now I have a completely identical version of this virtual machine with all the customizations and, work that was done on it. And I now have 2 instances of those running. So finally, I want to SSH into this RHEL 9 virtual machine. And I could access it through the console here, but I also now can use this virtctl command line interface to access it via a terminal on my laptop or a server within your organization. So I'm going to paste that command that I got from the OpenShift console, and I'm going to supply the private key that is paired with the public key that is in my SSH secret that I talked about earlier. I'll run that command, connect to the system, and you can see I'm on my RHEL 9 instance. This is pretty standard RHEL. It is standard RHEL. It's exactly what you would think. RHEL 9.6 running on the S390X architecture. I can look at the root file system, and that looks like Linux to me. I can look at my IP address to see that it is on that 10. Network. and you can look at my file system just to see that this is standard RHEL, and now I could start installing software on it if I wanted to. So that's it for the demo. Thanks for watching. I hope you understand a little bit more about OpenShift Virtualization running on IBM LinuxONE. And I hope you can tell that it is quite easy to use, and it's quite easy to deploy and manage your virtual machines manually here from the web console. Look out for other videos about automating this process and deploying applications in a more automated, standardized way. I look forward to building that demo out. Thanks.